Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going on a journey. We're going to explore a completely different way of experiencing the world by taking a deep dive into the leading theories that help us understand the autistic mind. So, let's start with the big question. What is autism really? It's a word we hear all the time, but to truly get it, we have to go way beyond a simple definition. It's a neurodevelopmental condition, something a person is born with. And grasping what that means involves looking at how the brain is wired, how it processes information, and how that wiring fundamentally shapes a person's entire reality. But first, let's just clear the air, okay? Let's get some of the most damaging myths right out of the way. Number one, autism is absolutely not caused by bad parenting. That old, harmful idea of the refrigerator mother, completely, totally wrong. Also, there is zero link between autism and vaccinations. That has been debunked again and again. And finally, it's a lifelong condition, so talking about a cure doesn't really make sense. It's all about understanding and support. All right, so now that we've set the record straight, let's try to reframe our thinking. Instead of seeing autism as some kind of defect, what if we thought of it as a different kind of operating system for the brain? One that just processes the world in a really unique and, honestly, fascinating way. So one of the biggest theories that helps explain this is called weak central coherence. And the core idea is this. The autistic brain is often remarkably good at focusing on details, like hyper-focused. But it can struggle to pull all those little details together to see the big picture or get the general gist of a situation. And this quote just paints such a powerful picture, doesn't it? Imagine looking at the world through a narrow pipe. You see what's right in front of you with incredible, perfect clarity, but you miss all the context around it. It's that classic idea of not being able to see the wood for the trees, and it really captures what weak central coherence can feel like. This really gets to the heart of two different ways of processing the world. See, most neurotypical people use top-down processing. They walk into a garden, and their brain says, garden. Then they start to notice the individual flowers. While the autistic brain often defaults to bottom-up processing. It sees every single blade of grass, every petal on a flower, every vein on a leaf, and from that sea of details, it slowly, painstakingly pieces together the idea of a garden. So, can you imagine what that's like? When your brain is constantly flooded with that much detail, it can feel incredibly overwhelming, chaotic even. So to cope, the brain naturally craves order. And this is where the drive for routines, for rituals, for sameness comes from. It's a way to make a world of infinite, disconnected details feel predictable, manageable, and safe. Now, this detail-oriented way of thinking is also directly tied to another key feature of the autistic experience, the incredible power of deep, focused attention, and the intense special interests that so often come with it. There's a theory for this called monotropism, and it suggests that the autistic mind tends to operate on a single, intense channel of attention. You can think of it like being in an attention tunnel. This is what allows for that incredible hyperfocus on a specific interest. But it also makes it extremely difficult to process multiple things at once, like trying to track a conversation while also reading someone's body language. I love this analogy. Think of your brain's executive functions as the conductor of an orchestra. In a neurotypical brain, the conductor smoothly signals for the violins to start and the woodwinds to quiet down. But in an autistic brain, that conductor's shift mechanism can be a bit sticky. The conductor gets the violins playing this beautiful, intricate melody, but then struggles to disengage from them to bring in the next section. It's not that the musicians are bad. It's the transition that's the hard part. And this deep focus is what fuels those special interests. And let's be clear, these are not just hobbies. They are deep, passionate explorations driven by a need to understand and systematize a subject in incredible detail. They can be anything from train schedules and road systems, to mathematics and coding, to collecting every single Pokemon card. Okay, so we've talked about this internal world of detail and intense focus, but how does that connect with the external social world? How do these theories help us understand the social differences we often associate with autism? All right, so this is probably the most famous theory. Theory of mind. It's basically our intuitive, built-in ability to understand that other people have their own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that are different from ours. To put yourself in their shoes. Now, the crucial thing to understand here is that for autistic people, this isn't an on-off switch. It's often a relative weakness, not a complete absence. That understanding doesn't always happen intuitively. It has to be consciously, logically figured out, like solving a puzzle.
And you can actually see this theory of mind developing on a different timeline. For instance, at around 14 months, a neurotypical child will automatically follow a pointed finger to see what you're looking at. An autistic child might just stare at the finger itself, missing the intention behind the gesture. And these differences continue, from struggling with pretend play to, even at age 9, having a hard time recognizing a social faux pas. That moment someone says something that accidentally hurts someone else's feelings.
So imagine, you're constantly having to manually decode social rules that everyone else just seems to get. It is absolutely exhausting. So to cope, many autistic people, especially girls and women, develop a strategy called camouflaging, or masking. It's this conscious, or sometimes unconscious, effort to imitate others to hide their autistic traits just to try and fit in. This quote from Louise, who was diagnosed at 27, is just so powerful. She describes this entire lifetime of learning social rules, copying what popular girls did, basically performing a version of herself for other people. It just highlights the immense energy it takes to mask and the profound relief that can come from finally being able to just be yourself. So far, we've been exploring the mind, the psychology of it all. Now, let's look at the brain itself, because all of these theories are ultimately rooted in a biological blueprint, a brain that is uniquely wired right from the very beginning. And this represents a massive shift in how we understand all of this. For decades, autism was viewed through this purely psychiatric lens. But today, modern neuroscience has moved the conversation from being all in the mind to being fundamentally all in the brain. It is a neurological condition. And the numbers? Well, the numbers really drive this point home. Autism is highly heritable. Genes account for about 80% of the influence. Get this, if an identical twin is autistic, there's an 80% chance the other twin will be too. And with prevalence rates hitting as high as 1 in 54 children in the US, you can see just how important this research really is. So where in the brain do we actually see these differences? Well, brain scans show us that a whole network of regions we call the social brain can be less active during social tasks. This includes areas like the medial prefrontal cortex, which is crucial for that theory of mind we just talked about, and the fusiform gyrus, which is super important for recognizing faces. And if we look even deeper inside, we see differences in key structures too. The corpus callosum, which is like this thick fiber optic bridge connecting the brain's two halves, can be smaller, affecting how different parts of the brain talk to each other. And the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, can be either under or overactive, which has a big impact on emotional responses. So when you put it all together, it really comes down to connectivity. The research points to this fascinating pattern: local overconnectivity, too many short-range connections, which explains that intense focus on detail, and at the same time, long-distance underconnectivity, meaning faraway brain regions don't communicate as well, which helps explain the difficulty in seeing the big picture. It's a brain that is truly fundamentally wired differently. I think this quote from the amazing autistic scientist Temple Grandin just sums it all up perfectly. She says her brain isn't broken or defective, it just developed differently, giving her different strengths and different weaknesses. It's such a powerful and beautiful way to think about neurodiversity. And really, this brings us to our final and most important question. After looking at all of this, it's pretty clear the goal isn't to fix a brain that works differently. The real challenge, and the real opportunity, is to ask ourselves, how can we all better understand, support, and ultimately celebrate the incredible diversity of human minds? Thanks for joining me on this journey.